capitals in Nigeria that could not put out fire because there was no single working fire engine in the state. Is fire a strange thing? Even fire has been happening before the 1950 something.
It's been happening first.
So that is why I said that is who we are. We just need to find a way to start transitioning.
How do we change? Are we even starting that transition? Are we looking to transition?
The mass orientation
looks
thing
like we're okay with the way we are. It's just sad. Everyone is just calm. And you hear people say, okay, just 258 people.
The way numbers of death
don't mean anything anymore.
It doesn't. If they say, two people were killed, nobody looks up.
So look at another number.
Who is to be held responsible for that? I mean, it's like what we said now is like life doesn't really matter in Nigeria anymore.
Oh, we are more used to death.
We just see it as just mere numbers.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, there are people that are in charge of it. There are people that, the masses are supposed to ask questions. Are we asking enough questions? Are we agitated enough to say that enough is enough? We don't have to lose lives avoidably.
We're not doing enough of that. But you first started from point of whose responsibility? How do we lay this at his desk? And I think it's leadership. For any situation, any society that will transform, that will change, it is led by the leadership of those societies. Are our leaders doing enough? I will say no. Are we even electing the right people sometimes?
Which is where it all starts from.
I'm delighted. They also want to look at electoral law.
Well, I hope we come to that, and that's very important. But let's look at another set of numbers. And again, I'm worried.
It's just sad.
We just see the numbers of people dying every day. I don't know.
Now we need a shrink in this building.
I tell you, we do, because I'm not getting used to these numbers. I don't know how we feel comfortable with them. The front page of the Daily Independent: 15 died, 38 injured in Ogun loan accident. Over 300 shops razed in early morning fire. This is from the Daily Independent. It's also on the Daily Sun. 15 died, 38 injured. The same number in Ogun auto crash as fire razes market, destroys 300 shops and goods. The Guardian also has it. 15 people die, 38 injured in Ogun auto crash.
You can find it across the papers this morning. Daily Trust, Vanguard, The Nation, they all have this headline. 15 people.
Accidents do happen. It's a reality of life. But I think the tragedy of our own environment remains the circumstances under which some of these things could happen, and we believe they could have been avoided. The vehicle that killed people was coming all the way from Sokoto. It had, it's a truck. Normally, it's not even meant for public transportation, but it had people in it, and plugged it to a dry river, and people died. Now, part of the systemic things that you find in place in some other part of the world is things that allow drivers, for long-distance drivers, to be able to take a rest.
Right, take a break.
Yes. Even you, as a private driver, you're taking a journey. I mean,
even within Lagos, sometimes you're tired.
There are places where you can pull up, you can come down, you can put some coins in some machines and take a drink or a cookie, and then you can stretch your legs and continue the journey. We don't have all of those here, and in a time when even the pathways are becoming more dangerous, nobody wants to stop. I mean, so someone told me about a travel to the north where someone in the middle of the bush said, "I need to do number 2," and the driver said, "No way, I'm going to stop in this bush." And guess what? The guy did it in the car, in the bus.
Oh my!
It was a horrible journey for all the people because
I can imagine.
He had to let go. So when you have those kind of situations in which long-distance drivers are unable to pause and stretch their legs and clear their eyes, things like this
some of them for fear of attacks on the road.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. It's a fear of attack.
Yeah, I can't stop. I can't risk the lives.
You stop and some people will just pounce on you from nowhere.
Well, the FRSC here insists that this accident was due to excessive speeding from the Mitsubishi Canter car, which was loaded with guinea fowls meant for delivery in Ogun State, and then I mean it's
quite
it's just and
unfortunate.
a fire started from
You were
that.
almost there where you're going.
Right,
I mean,
all the way from
why were you
Sokoto.
speeding? Why?
I
All the way
don't
from
know.
Sokoto.
Right,
You
and
can
then
imagine.
there you went. I mean,
You're almost there.
It's when you're even close there that the risk of what it takes to have that accident might not be more than 5 seconds of closing your eyes.
Right. You suddenly just feel like, okay, I'm almost done. And your body tends to, please, if you're driving long distance or short distance and you're tired, find a place to pull over, maybe a restaurant,
Use
pull
the
into the
opportunity
park.
to look at your tires.
Check your tires, get and walk around, take a drink if you can, wash your. If you really need to rest, pull into a filling station, beg them for some 15 minutes, pull back your seat, rest, wake up and continue, please.
Indeed. Let's look at this interesting headline here on the front page of the Vanguard newspaper. FG not fighting corruption to impress TI. Lai Mohammed talking there. Let's look at what the story is all about. TI, by the way, is Transparency International. And okay, so he's here. Minister of Information and Culture, Alhaji Lai Mohammed, yesterday said that the federal government does not seek to impress any organization with its anti-corruption fight. Mohammed was reacting to the Transparency International TI Corruption Index, which ranked Nigeria 146 out of 180 countries with a total of 26 points out of a possible 100 points. He said, and I quote him, "In any event, we are not fighting corruption because we want to impress any organization. We are fighting corruption because we believe that without fighting the menace, the much sought development will not happen. And we have results to show for fighting corruption." He said they have results. We have put in place policies and legislation that have tamed the monster called corruption. Let me stop there.
We have tamed corruption.
Let me just stop there.
This reminds me.
Why did you choose to stop that? It sounds as if you don't believe it.
No.
No, I mean, it just stops.
It's just convenient. to stop. It's just
There
convenient.
was a full
to stop.
stop there. So.
The realities of some of those things is, well, people come around to your domain, they do a research. The same research, the same parameters are deployed in other clients.
Other places.
And then they arrive at some result. And you said you're not good with it. Well, the unfortunate thing, however, is that if I'm sitting right in Sweden or in Russia and I'm making a decision about Nigeria, I'm not going to be calling the Ministry of Information to ask about how the corruption situation is in Nigeria. I will be relying on information such as this.
Right.
Therefore, it is important. In fact, the first time I heard of Transparency International some years ago was in a business class back in the US, where we were trying to arrive at the discount factor for making an investment decision. And you said you factor in things like this, and you said the Transparency International, and there was a list, and then all of a sudden I found my country there. I think the only worst person in that class that day was a lady from Indonesia or something, who was rated lower than Nigeria then. It was
And that's where decisions are made.
so it was an embarrassment. So for us, if there are things we think we're doing that the world doesn't know, or that there's some research do not know, I think we owe it to them also to have an engagement with us. So this is what we're doing. Otherwise, it matters more than the minister to think it does.
Somehow it appears that we just throw tantrums when we get this report, rather than say, okay, we hear you. We thank you for the report, but this is what we are doing. Can we work together, to improve the situation?
Look at last year, Wemimo, when the report was better.
Weren't we so happy? We
embraced
applauded.
it,
We embraced
and
it.
it was good. So the whole essence is not when it is in my favor,
You
I
agree.
feel good about it. When it is not, I discredit it.
Well, another minister speaking here on the front page of the Daily Independent, Nigeria to begin rice exportation in 2020. Should we be clapping? Where's my secretary? 2022. 2022.
That's
Nigeria
yes
to begin rice exportation in 2022. Does it look like we can meet that target?
It's not impossible.
With the rate we're going, I
With
think
the-
we
with-
can.
We sustain this rate, and then that pace of research and technology is very important. Our current yield per hectare is horrible. Today, as we stand, if that yield is just doubled, we will meet our internal needs.
How do we double the yield?
It's research and technology.
Which we're not investing heavily
So
in.
if we're doing 1.8 hectares, 1.8 metric ton per hectare, and China is doing 6.9, Can you see the difference between 1.9 and 6.9? So whatever they are doing, the same hectare, this is what we produce. In your hectare, this is what you produce. Egypt is doing 8.2 metric ton per hectare.
Oh, wow.
So we are at 1.8.
Wow.
So that space of research and technology is very critical to achieving 2022.
Is there any focus? Is there any focus on that sector right now? Because the other day I was talking, there was this issue about federal government funding research, teaching hospitals when it comes to Ebola, Lassa fever, and our guest who joined us from Kano said that they don't get funding for research; they only get from private organizations.
International.
I think in the case of Agric, it will be weird if federal government is not deploying resources.
But we have the NIIA, right?
Research. There are a number of research institutes.
But I don't hear from them
ITA.
regularly. Like, do they?
Used to be.
Yeah. Where are the reports? What have they been finding out?
They report if you're not seeking out for it or you're not a consumer, it is possible.
I'm going to do a quick search. I'll search for it now. We have to
Yeah.
go now, guys. Well, you can go check out these other headlines. Court restrains sacked Oyo local government chairman from taking over councils. It's getting really heated in Oyo State, and you can go check that out. Also, PDP threatens to boycott 2023 elections, demands electoral reform. That would be very, very interesting. You can go see these headlines.
The boycott won't work anyway.
I'm sure they won't even do that. It's just a threat. But let's see how far these threats will go. After the break, we're continuing our conversation yesterday on the ban on Okada and Kekemara in Lagos State across many roads. We had a commissioner for information yesterday who insisted that the government was looking out for Lagosians, but Lagosians didn't seem to agree with him.
Right.
We're bringing to you today the Association of Okada and Mara Riders. They'll be telling you, right? Yeah, absolutely. Let them tell you how they feel about this.
Right. Let's go out now on a break. We're back in a moment. I'm Sheriff Quadry.
I'm Wemimo Adewuni. Join us soon.